Luke 16, how does it start out? And there was a rich man who fared sumptuously. And there was a man named Lazarus, a beggar, who sat at his gate begging crumbs from the rich man every day. So how did Jesus start out his story? And there once was a rich man who fared sumptuously. We're going to start our story the same way. There was once a colony of people. And they lived in this place right here, this settlement, which is where Glen Rose is. And here's where Mineral Wells and Fort Worth and Dallas are right here. There was once a group of people who lived right there. And we find evidence of that because we have the tracks over there. Now, why did they live there? And why did the tracks get left behind and all that kind of thing? That's what Billy and I are going to talk about right now. These people were ordinary people just like you and me. Probably they were a little bit more crafty about what things they did because they lived in a way that they produced things and food that we probably could not do if we'd have lived back then. They were probably more intelligent than we were. They probably knew a whole lot more about things, and there were some of them that were giants. So they had giants there too, because here's a footprint of one right here. So there was big guys and little guys. There was enough guys to do all kinds of work that they had to do. They lived here. They'd never seen a cloud before, never seen a raindrop hit the ground before. Never seen anything like that. They had this nice lowland plain down here where all their big dinosaurs used to graze. You know, all the Tyrannosaurus rexes and everything were up here, and all the Brontosaurus type guys, which really didn't exist, Gigantosaurus and everything else down here, the sauropods. And they all lived in a very nice community. How'd they keep the dinosaurs out of their fields? They probably built fires and put up fences, and they probably went out there with pots and pans and banged them and shoot them off. Because the dinosaurs weren't afraid of men, and the men weren't afraid of dinosaurs. So there you go. It was a nice environment.
You see Dallas, and you see these mountains.
Yeah, there's the Waterfall.
There's a mountain range there that's completely destroyed during the flood. Tall as the Rockies. And the flood came and destroyed it completely. You can drill into it if you want to. We can go over there and drill a 2,000-foot well, and we can hit the old core of that. The Arbuckle Mountains are wiped completely off. Where did my thing go? And so, here's, if you came back in this time, during the flood, or right at the flood time, you might see a little sign there that says, "Welcome to Glen Rose." Not really. But these streams came off of the springs like this, you can see, and so they had water here, had plenty of food here, and we know these sediments came like this because I've done some geological work there, and we'll show that in a minute. But they did try to escape to the highlands, and they're escaping just like the dinosaurs and so forth during the flood, and that's real muddy and mucky, and they're stepping in the mud and leaving these tracks that harden later on.
Now, think about this. Kids, people wake up one morning, all of a sudden they see a puffy cloud over there in the sky. They say, "What is that? I've never seen that before. I've never seen something floating around in the sky like that. Is that some kind of island floating up there? What is it?" All of a sudden, here comes raindrops. Now, they really are flabbergasted now because they got raindrops coming out of the sky. They have never seen that before. Nobody ever saw that. What would you do if you had seen something like that and you'd never seen it before in your whole life? You'd start panicking. You'd be pretty scared. What is happening? You know, never seen. All of a sudden, the ground starts moving underneath them, people. Starts rumbling. What's happening? The fountains of the deep are erupting forth. And they're down here in that low area, in this lowland down here. They're seeing all these fountains of the deep erupt up in this lowland down here, and they're shooting geysers up in the air, not only of hot water, but cold water too, cold and hot water geysers, just like the ones in Yellowstone and places like this. Now they're really panicking. Now they go in there, and not only that, they're seeing the water rise at the rate of about 6 feet a minute. 6 feet an hour. Pardon me, not 6 feet a minute, 6 feet an hour. About 6 feet an hour, this water's coming up fast. Every hour, 6 more feet of water. 6 more feet of water. They're starting to really panic now. So they're getting in there and they're gathering up all their stuff, and their mom and dad are saying, "Don't worry about that, let's head for the high ground." So they start running, and a lot of them don't even have shoes on. And some of them have sandals, and they're losing those sandals in that mucky mud that's in there that's real, like this stuff right here. So you see a lot of barefooted ones. Why bare feet? Because they didn't have enough time to think about what they were doing. They had to get on the stick and run. They had to go.
They washed them off. Yeah.
They're heading in this direction right here. We have evidence of that. We have evidence by surveyors that they were heading in this direction toward the highlands, right up here, okay? The dinosaurs were doing the same thing. They were coming up the same way. Bang, there you go. the perfect scenario for a human and dinosaur print to be in the same place at the same time.
And then all of this material is going to wash off into the basin there, making the oil and gas. So this is the Fort Worth Basin right here, which has a lot of oil and gas. Permian Basin's way over here in Midland, Odessa, and so forth like that. There are a lot of basins around Midland Basin and so forth, Michigan Basin. And so here's Glen Rose right here. Here's those mountains that we told you about, the Ouachita Mountains. Also mountains up here with granite and so forth. And this is called, this area up in here is
Arbuckle's in the Ouachita.
yeah, Ouachita and Wichita area.
Mm-hmm.
Llano was granite, and it's a big mass. And so this goes, this mountain range goes, we haven't got a good picture of that, have we? We do have, yeah, we do. What Jack and I found yesterday.
Billy, right there.
Yeah, but this goes
You got a
all,
better one right there, yeah.
This goes all the way to Big Bend if you want to come and see it. This mountain range went across Texas, up into Arkansas, over to making the Appalachian Mountains. In other words, attached to the Appalachian Mountains. Went all the way to the Big Bend and swung around here. So it's a long mountain range.
The Balcone Rift and all that sort of thing.
Balcones, Mejia.
Yeah, Balcones.
And then we have a picture here of the Arbuckle Mountains, the whole top knocked off of the Arbuckle Mountains down to the Creamery. But as geologists, in 1953, I picked this up in the Big Bend on the Buttrell Ranch south of Marathon. And it was Caballos novaculite. In other words, it was a mineral called novaculite. It's green. It's real pretty. Make beautiful jewelry and so forth. I thought, I'm going to go out there and get me some of this and make a fireplace out of it. But when we went out there, every ledge had a rattlesnake on it, and we decided not to do it. And so I kept this for years. Big Bend. We drilled a well at Lake Weatherford. I brought a core up, and this is half of a core. And as we brought it up, I looked and saw that there was the same green novaculite there in Weatherford, proving it's a perfect match when you come up and see it, proving without a shadow of a doubt that those mountains continued all the way down and all the way around like that. So this is the kind of scientific evidence you would see, and we're going to put this in our book in our next edition. You know, we just found some stuff. We found that yesterday. And so those are just the kind of evidence that we work with, Delk print, et cetera, et cetera. We don't just make up theories. And everything we tell you today, we don't know the answer. God knows what he did. But we're theorizing and looking at evidence and postulating and coming up with some ideas that we think are provable and potential. This is the one that goes on down to the Big Bend.
Right.
And bends up here in Arkansas and goes all the way to the Appalachian Mountains.
This shows those stream beds going down toward the...
And the stream beds coming here. And
Yeah.
and I've been in those. I've drilled a bunch of those as a geologist and know exactly where those streams are. And I found 4 zones of gas within a mile of my house. And they're beautiful, and they would pay off, and they'd be beautiful gas zones, but gas was been $2, you know, or less. I never could get it drilled, and today they're building 1,000 houses on top of it. And so it'll always be lost there. But it was in these very streams that you see here, and I can show you how beautiful it was, and the gas is there. I just
See,
never...
he has evidence here those streams are flowing from the southeast to the northwest, away from the mountains, going toward the basin. Significant, so you got to put all this information together. This is what we sat for hours and talking about, putting this information all together. Now, what do the streams do now? They all flow from the northwest to the southeast through the Brazos River
Changed.
complex. The change is because of that abatement pool that we talked about, draining in that direction and eroding it all down.
Now this, I use this as a marker. I didn't tell the other geologist because it was too hard to find. I use this for a marker. When I came down to this zone, I knew where I was exactly in that green novaculite all the way through. And it's brecciated, which means it's angular. It didn't travel very far. If it traveled a long distance in a stream, it gets well rounded. You know how those are. But this was just carried a short distance from the Ouachitas. And this was picked up at Lake Weatherford in a well we drilled in a core. So we're showing you evidence of all these things that we've accumulated through the years.